Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Hope you're off to a great day so far. We have a bunch of news items that fall into the category news you can use. So these are sometimes my favorite sort of reports because it's not about connecting the dots on things that could potentially happen in the future. These are things happening right now that it could impact you and your family. So there's news value in this. And we're going to be talking about news value in just a moment. One of the things you should know that's happening today is that the president is going to be holding a news conference. And this is significant for a few different reasons. The president is going to be marking a year in office. And we have some indication from the White House they're going to be listing some of what they perceive as achievements in the first year. But they also said they're going to be leveling with the American people about the challenges ahead. Why news conferences matter, regardless of who's in office, what party's in office, who's actually running the White House, is that this is a chance for the American press to go to work. We get to see a live questioning of the top elected official in the nation. This, in many ways, is unique. We don't see this in every country all over the world. And so I like to watch it strictly for the exercise of it alone. But what else are we going to be watching for? Remember, the president is dealing with a whole host of different competing items in front of him. He has the pandemic. He has voting rights legislation in Congress. He has inflation that he's paying close attention to. We have this developing situation with Russia. So you have a whole host of different items that he could address or he could be questioned on, and maybe also the unexpected announcement or the unexpected question from the press. And that's what I'm going to be really watching for. And just a tip. Oftentimes there's all these metrics about news conferences from the president. How many had they held? How long have they talked to the press? How many questions have they answered? My question is, what is the news value? I'm going to be watching for news value coming from this press briefing. What do we learn that's different at the end of today versus what we started the day with? This news conference is expected at 3 p.m. Central Time. So check it out if you're interested. We'll be watching too. I'll be pulling sound bites for you that I think are the most relevant. And if necessary, of course, I'll jump on and give you a little breakdown. We also have a few items related to the pandemic to talk about before this news conference with the president. Today, if you'd like to jump online, gov't.gov. This is a way for you to access for free at-home COVID tests through the U.S. Postal Service. That's how it'll be delivered to you. Now, there's been a lot of conversation about this, about whether or not the White House should have done this sooner, whether or not these tests will arrive because it could take nearly 2 weeks to get to you, whether or not they're going to still be relevant at this point of the pandemic, all of those things. Something just to consider is the expense. At-home tests, if you go to a drugstore, can cost you upwards of $30. And if you have a family of 5 like I do, for example, it can get real expensive really fast. So this doesn't solve all the testing problems clearly in the nation. There's still a lot of questions about tests, but I just want you to be aware of this in case you'd like to access it. So covidtest.gov. In the meantime, there is some preliminary research out of Israel I want to flag for you. Israel obviously has had a very aggressive vaccination campaign when it comes to COVID-19. And just recently in a small study, medical workers at a hospital took a 4th COVID-19 dose. So what they're referring to this as the second booster. And what they found, and by the way, this was about evenly divided between those that had a Moderna shot and a Pfizer shot. What they found, at least in the early analysis, is that yes, this extra vaccine dose boosted antibody levels, but it didn't necessarily offer additional protection against Omicron. So this has been a continuing question as we get into boosting when it comes to COVID-19 vaccines. How many boosters could you possibly get? What does that actually look like on a calendar for an individual? And so again, early research, small group out of Israel. There are doctors that say it's not without value to have a 4th dose, but there are also those that are saying it's not offering additional protection against actual infection. Early, but important. Finally, let's talk a little bit about what you hold in the palm of your hand and refer to on a regular basis throughout the day, and that is your cell phone. There is an expansion in America of 5G technology and an important expansion that is scheduled for today. Why does 5G technology matter? 5G technology matters because experts will say this will make your cell phone work more efficiently in all sorts of ways. But there have been concerns raised about 5G technology in the past, and today what we're going to focus on is actually plane flight and air travel. So here's the story. The expansion that's happening through AT&T and Verizon today is not going to be happening around certain airports. And the reason for that is that there has been a recurring question about whether or not this technology could interfere with certain technology on certain planes. Now, is it for sure that it will interfere, cause that kind of interference? Think about, have you ever used a walkie-talkie and picked up somebody else talking on it? That's sort of, it's a very basic, but that's sort of like the concern that some pilots have about what this technology could potentially do to tools that they need to land a plane in low visibility, for example, or in bad weather. Oftentimes, this concern is related, or most often related, to Boeing 777. So these are large planes. And in fact, there's been some cancellations today of air travel on particular planes, particular flights landing at particular airports because these airlines were concerned about technology and safety. Now, the telecom companies will say, wait a minute, you guys had a long time to figure out, a couple years to figure out whether or not this is a real issue or a real concern. And you have some pilot associations saying, hey, we don't have the data. You guys haven't shared the data that we need to make that determinant. And so the FAA, which is overseeing air travel in America, says that they're working on this issue, that certain flights may not happen because of it. And so what's the big takeaway for you? Is it less safe for you to fly today than it was yesterday? That's not necessarily what this headline is saying, but it is saying that there is concern about some flights on some planes. And it's something to be aware of because the White House is even involved in this, saying that they're trying to work with all sides to figure out some sort of a solution here. And so while this technology moves forward in America, you should know that there's certain places that it's being held back, at least for now, awaiting more information. So a lot of big stories to watch today. We're going to be watching for developments on all of these stories for you. In the meantime, I'm curious about something. If you had the opportunity to attend the news conference today with the president, what is the one question you would like to ask him? What is the one question you want answered? Only one. I'm curious. Let me know. I'm going to have to think on that for a while. In the meantime, more on all these stories on smarternews.com. Have a great day.